Welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you. Thanks for checking out the channel. Hope everybody's doing fantastic out there today. Damian Lillard. Today was such a busy day of nothing in the world of Damian Lillard, but there was so much nothing. You know, it was just like, let me just take in all this Damian Lillard content. Will I get anything of value? I don't know, but you know, the training camp is right around the corner. Let's see what's what. And so Damian Lillard was on a couple of podcasts. Damian Lillard was doing a little media. And, you know, this guy, I got to say, is just an absolute savant at being able to talk around the Portland situation. Like, he has taken this whole muzzling from the NBA, who with their crybaby, oh, don't talk about it, don't imply it. He's done a fantastic job with it. And so you got to give Damian Lillard props on that. But he was on a couple of podcasts where he was talking, you know, a lot about his album and all that. And then, you know, got into some of Portland and the theoreticals of it. So he was on this podcast, Back on Fig. And in that one was really basically, I think the juiciest thing that came out of that was there was a couple of things for Heat fans. One, he basically was explaining where the breakdown was between him and Portland in vague terms, just basically saying, you know, we don't want the same things anymore. You know, it's like you could only be loyal to a certain point, but you can't be an idiot. And when you don't want the same things anymore, you don't want the same things anymore. And, you know, how long are you supposed to be, you know, loyal when you guys just aren't on the same page? So that was probably the most interesting thing that came out of that. He also did give a little bit of a shout out to Bam Adebayo when asked about the chemistry with his favorite player from the Olympic team. And he specifically made it known that he couldn't say anything because he didn't want to start trouble. But we know who it is. We know that it's Bam Adebayo, and they had their little shout out that they've done on social media before. So that was probably the most Heat relevant thing, is that, you know, he lets it be known that one of the big reasons in his own Damian Lillard way is that he wants to play with Bam. And so that was interesting. And then he also went on Cameron's podcast. So the last time we crossed paths with Cameron, and this is what is his show, which is a good show. He can't beat Mario Chalmers in one-on-one. That's crazy talk. But, you know, he has a good show. He has a good podcast. I'm not going to say untruths. He definitely has a good podcast. So Dane went on that. Was talking about his album Don Dalla, which he's retweeted a lot. It has, you know, I've stuck with the having Dame on notifications today, through today, but I will continue to. But it's been mostly Damian Lillard, Don Dalla retweets the entire time. And I will say, this guy seems to put out music videos at a very impressive, productive rate. I would say, out of this podcast in particular, the most interesting thing. The clip that I think went viral for the podcast was that he would want to stay in Portland's career if everything was right. I don't really know why that went viral. I think we know that Damian Lillard would love to stay in Portland if everything was right. And to right, what that means is not rebuilding. So him saying that I want to stay in Portland in a perfect world, we know it's not a perfect world. So I don't know why that got as much traction as it did. But I think the interesting one for me was Cameron was asking him about the idea of, don't you feel like, you know, you kind of should be done right by the organization theoretically if you did ask for a trade, and you're not out here. Cameron compared it to James Harden, and he goes, you know, again, he's like, it was like in a hypothetical bold terms, but he goes, you know, when you get drafted by an organization and you've represented the way that I have, you know, you would hope that they would show you the same respect should I ask or have asked for something like that. So very putting it vague terms, but I don't necessarily know if we got anything new out of it. And I think, honestly, if I were to say with these Damian Lillard interviews, the one thing I would say that was probably the most newsworthy, he did kind of confirm on It Is What It Is that he's not going to go about this the James Harden route, that he's got certain principles. He's not going to go about this show up in a fat suit. He's going to be a professional because those are the things he believes in. So I really do think that we've probably reached as much of Damian Lillard making a stink as we can. I think that he's probably done what he feels all he can do to let it be known where he wants to go. So for me, these two interviews, while good interviews and good shows, I think that probably the newsiest piece out of it was the shout out to Bam for Heat fans, and then letting it be known that, he's probably not gonna, dog it when he gets to camp. Will be interesting to see if he is still there, if anything is going to happen. Yesterday, the big piece of fodder, there's been so from the ESPN contingent, they've all gone onto this with some nuggets about the Heat not necessarily putting all their chips on the table for Damian Lillard. Mark Spears was obviously close to Damian Lillard, mentioned yesterday, a mystery team. I think that's significant for me because, Mark Spears is obviously a Damian Lillard guy. He's not, as everybody likes to call Woj, the Cronin shill. He's not the Portland Trailblazers shill. He's a Dame guy. That's probably one of Dame's, most known go-to guys. He's gotten the first sit-down interview with Dame. And, obviously said that he wouldn't be able to talk about his trade request, but did confirm that it was there. So, mystery team, though, I know a lot of people scoff at it. Who would it be? The big scuttle around the league seems to be it's Toronto, which makes sense to some level. They got some interesting pieces around their team. You don't really know what vibe they're at. You don't really know what they believe in as a team right now. And then the other piece of it is we know with Masai Ujiri, we know that he's taken big home run cuts on guys who didn't necessarily want to be there before anyway. We know that he's done this. He's done this with Kawhi Leonard, so he's got a past of it. So you had that piece. You had this piece from Windhorst who was basically discussing that the Blazers want the Heat to turn over every nook and cranny for every asset. And from that standpoint, not a surprising thing. I mean, I think obviously Portland is going to want to get the best deal. And from the Heat standpoint, they probably feel there really is no competition for it. I do feel like there does seem to be some murkiness from the Heat side on exactly what Portland is trying to do, because it does feel like they're trying to set up a lot of flares to a lot of teams. Like, somebody come in here, make a swing, make a pitch for Damian Lillard. But it's just so clear that Damian wants what he wants, and I just don't know if that's going to work. And then today you had a couple of interesting notes from Adrian Wojnarowski and Zach Lowe, and a couple of things that were interesting off of their show today on NBA Today. Woj is reporting that the Heat are basically, he put it, daring the Blazers to go find another deal. That the Heat are not going to put out their best offer, that they're daring the Trailblazers to go out there and do it. Zach Lowe reiterated it. He said, I don't think Miami's put out their best offer because they don't think that they have to, because the rest of the league is like, if we trade him, is he going to be unhappy here? So, it was the big thing and theme that has come out of the last couple of days from the reporting side of this nationally has been Portland seems to be putting it out there that Miami ain't offering everything they got. I guess from Miami's standpoint, I look at this in a couple ways. I get Miami feels like it has the upper hand on all of this because ultimately Damian Lillard wants to be a Blazer, but he doesn't have a no trade clause. And I do think that whatever the way is and the pathway is for the Heat to get it cordial with Portland, if we're being real about it with Miami, the time is not on their side as far as the need for Damian Lillard. You know, the Portland Trailblazers could go into this season, and it could be a mess, and they could play with Damian Lillard and Scoot Henderson, and it could be clunky, and it's going to be awkward, and it's probably a bad look. But they really don't have anything at stake for this season. I think from Miami's perspective, I'm not talking really about even awkwardness at camp. I think Heat will handle all of that great. I think the Heat have the right infrastructure for that. I don't really worry about weirdness at press conferences or camp or any of that fodder nonsense. But what I do think is going to be interesting for Miami is what is the timeline for them to want to pull the trigger on this, because you know, they look at Jimmy Butler and they look at Bam Adebayo and they want to get those guys the right running mate to take them over the top. You know, how many more cracks at this do they have, especially with Jimmy Butler being 34, turned 34 this week. And though Jimmy Butler right now looks like one of the best damn players in the league and has certainly shown himself to be able to carry them through an Eastern Conference that really hasn't gotten better. You know, it really hasn't gotten better. And I think that the Heat probably could step back and look at this and be like, well, we just did that without Tyler Herro. We could probably get through the East again, a worse Eastern Conference with Tyler Herro, and see where we're at with that. So, you know, the standoff is interesting. But I do think that they have needed a guy like Dame that would put them over the top, that would put them in a place where they could actually say we're going to go toe-to-toe with anybody in that Western Conference bracket and be able to bring it home. You know, they've been so close over Jimmy Butler's tenure with 2 trips to the finals, 3 trips to the Eastern Conference finals. You want to know what that last piece is going to be. So seeing all this standoff was definitely interesting. I just, the one thing I worry about really with any of this, the only angst that it gives me, and I'm not saying the deal's not going to happen, but, and I mentioned this before, it's a little bit like it can give you a little bit of Timberwolves Heat vibes, where I do think that the Heat got very frustrated with the negotiations and they eventually kind of just blew up and the Heat were done with it. And, you know, supposedly they got very emotional. They got very pissed, and, you know, the Timberwolves didn't send Jimmy Butler to where he wants to go. They said F it and send him to the Philadelphia 76ers. So there is still a part of me that worries, like, are the Heat going to get so frustrated and believe in themselves anyway, because they'll think to themselves, well, we nobody liked that we ran it back last year, and look what we did. We didn't have the greatest regular season last year, and look what we did. There can be, I think, a false sense of security from Miami's perspective. Now, what is everything? Like, do the Blazers feel like they should get, you know, Hawkins and Jovic and Tyler and Caleb and 4 first-round picks? Yeah, that to me is unreasonable. But do they feel like they should get multiple picks and a couple of those young guys? And do I think that's fair? Yeah, I think that's fair. I think you're getting one of the best players in the league, one of the leading scorers in the league. This is not one of those where I think the Heat get to just go in there and I think fleece the Blazers. The thing that's really just pissed me off out of all of it really has been that people have looked at Miami's assets and said, well, those guys aren't good players. And I'm like, dude, don't say Tyler Herro's not a good player. Don't say that, you know, Nikola Jovic isn't going to be a good player. You know, don't act like you're getting crap. And that's the big argument from Miami's perspective, is like, look around, like, well, what is the better package? Are you going to get Tyrese Maxey? All right, we'll have the Maxey Tyler Herro argument up and down all day. They don't have the picks to give you. Okay. And then it's like, well, where else is it? Are you really going to send him to Toronto? Like, is that really going to be a thing that's going to happen? Are you going to make an OG Anunoby, and you're going to give OG Anunoby a boatload of money and make it happen? All right. I mean, I think that's where Miami sits back so patient in all this. But I don't think this is also one of those where Miami can be like, yeah, Kyle Lowry in a first. I don't think that should be their course of action on this thing either. But, you know, as I said, it was a day with a lot of Damian Lillard noise, but nothing of really news. And then the only other thing that I found of interest today was Tyler Herro, who doesn't tweet a lot. And Tyler Herro just simply put a cap emoji. What's cap? I don't know what it is. I don't know what he's referring to. I don't know who he feels like what his What is cap? What is being dishonest out there? Is somebody in the Heat organization being dishonest? Is there a rumor? Saw some Hornets fodder from like a blowhard NBA rumors account. Is he calling cap on that? Is it just nothing? I don't know. I'm running, I'm just like, what could this mean? What is this? What is this? I'm staying up till janitor hours. I'm trying to figure it all out. I don't know. But it is interesting because Tyler doesn't tweet a lot. He's not a guy who just puts out there. He's, what does he tweet? Tweets probably like once a month. So when he does tweet something out, I'm always like, all right, there's got to be something because guy doesn't tweet that frequently. If he's not promoting something, feels like it's something. He's not a guy who he's done the cryptic tweeting before. So I felt like, there's got to be something behind this for Tyler Herro. But I don't know what it is. I don't know what any of this is. I just know that I can't wait for just actual basketball to be here because, man, this has been, now that the talks have ramped up again, or just started, I guess we could say, it's been high time for lying season again around the NBA. So maybe that's what Tyler Herro's calling cap on. I don't know.